Of course, my cat had to betray me. Out of all people in this city, she decided to love the one man who looks like trouble wrapped in ink and smirks. Figures because life has a sick sense of humor, and apparently so does my cat. The first time I saw him, I was dragging a box of groceries up the narrow staircase of our old Brooklyn apartment building, muttering under my breath about how my landlord should fix the elevator. My arms ached, my legs trembled, and then, like some cinematic punishment, my grocery bag tore open halfway up the stairs. Ken's rolled down the steps, an apple bounced dramatically against the wall, and I just stood there, frozen in the tragedy of my own clumsiness. That's when he appeared. Black ink twined up his forearm like smoke, disappearing beneath the sleeve of his t-shirt. His hair was dark, his jaw sharp, his smile annoyingly confident. He bent down, caught the runaway apple before it hit the ground, and offered it back to me like some ridiculous knight in shining tattoos. "Looks like you could use a stronger bag," he said, his voice low, smooth, teasing. I wanted to tell him to mind his own business, but instead I just stammered out a weak thanks. My cat, Luna, who had been peeking curiously out of my apartment door at the top of the stairs, meowed and traitorously bounded straight into his arms the second he set foot on the landing. She purred. Loudly. I froze. Luna never purred for strangers. Hell, she barely tolerated me most of the time. But there she was, melting in the arms of this inked stranger like he was catnip personified. And that was how it started. His name was Aaron. He lived in the apartment directly above mine, worked late nights as a tattoo artist in a downtown studio, and had a laugh that could crack the walls. He wore black like it was a religion and carried himself with the kind of ease I had always envied. I, on the other hand, was just a struggling art student barely holding things together, trying to find my voice in a city that constantly drowned me out. But Luna didn't care about any of that. Every evening, like clockwork, she scratched at my door until I gave up and let her visit him upstairs. Sometimes I tried to carry her back, but she'd twist in my arms, yowling, as if I was the villain keeping her from her one true love. And Aaron, he always welcomed her. He'd open his door with that easy grin, tattoos peeking from his collar, eyes gleaming with amusement. "Guess she likes me better," he'd say, scratching under her chin while she melted against him. It was infuriating and terrifying, because slowly, against my will, I started to like him too. It didn't help that Aaron seemed determined to break through my carefully constructed walls. One night, around midnight, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find him holding Luna in his arms. She had apparently sneaked out again. He leaned against the doorframe, casual, as if midnight visits were perfectly normal. "Thought you might be missing someone," he said, his eyes sparkling. I mumbled something about how she was a terrible cat and reached for her, but Aaron didn't let go right away. Instead, he tilted his head, studying me like I was some kind of puzzle. "You always this tense, or is it just me?" he asked. Heat shot up my neck, and I sputtered out a denial. He laughed softly, finally handing Luna over. That laugh haunted me the rest of the night. Days turned into weeks. My life started to orbit around these strange little moments. Aaron handing Luna back with a smirk, the sound of his music bleeding faintly through the ceiling, the times we accidentally bumped into each other on the stairs. It was maddening how easily he fit into my world. And scarier still was how much I wanted him to stay there. The thing is, I wasn't supposed to fall for someone like him. Not with my history. Not with the way I had promised myself to keep my head down, focus on my work, and avoid getting my heart torn apart again. Love was messy, dangerous, and yet, every time I saw him sketching designs in his notebook, his brows furrowed in concentration, I felt the ground beneath me shift. I caught myself staring too long, wondering what it would feel like to trace those tattoos with my fingers. Wondering what it would be like if he looked at me the way Luna did, like I was worth choosing. And then came the night that changed everything. It was raining, the kind of relentless New York rain that makes the whole city feel like it's drowning. I was sitting by my window, sketchbook untouched, when there was another knock on my door. Aaron stood there, wet hair plastered to his forehead, holding a bottle of whiskey in one hand and looking way too good for someone who should have been miserable from the storm. "Power's out upstairs," he said, jerking his thumb toward the ceiling. "Mind if I crash here for a while?" I should have said no. I should have come up with some excuse. But instead, I stepped aside and let him in. Luna immediately jumped into his lap the moment he sat down, of course. He chuckled, setting the whiskey on the table. "See? She knows where she belongs." I rolled my eyes, but my heart wasn't in it. The room was dim, lit only by the glow of the city through the rain-streaked window. Aaron poured us both a drink, leaned back on my couch, and for the first time, I saw something different in his eyes. Something quieter. "You ever feel like this city's too big?" he asked suddenly, his voice softer than usual. I swallowed, staring into my glass. "Every day." He nodded as if he understood too well. And that was when Luna, the little traitor, leapt off his lap and onto mine only to curl up between us, pressing herself into the small space we shared. Our hands brushed as we both reached to pet her. Just a touch, just a second, but it was enough to set my entire world spinning. Aaron's eyes met mine, and for once he wasn't smirking. He was just there, open, close enough to kiss, and I hated myself for wanting it so badly. Aaron didn't kiss me that night. He could have God, he could have, and maybe I would have let him. Maybe I even wanted him to, but instead, he pulled back first, his hand lingering just long enough on mine to make me wonder if I imagined the heat between us. Then he downed the rest of his drink and leaned against the couch like nothing happened. That was worse than rejection. It was hope, and hope is cruel. The days that followed became unbearable. Every time I saw him, I remembered that almost kiss, the brush of his hand, the way his eyes softened in the shadows. But Aaron acted as though nothing had shifted. He still smiled, still teased, still stole my cat for hours. Meanwhile, I was drowning in silence. One evening, I finally broke. I was walking back from the bodega, rain dripping from my hoodie, when I spotted him outside the building. He was leaning against the stoop, cigarette glowing between his fingers, his tattoos glistening under the wet streetlight. "Hey!" he called when he saw me, like nothing was wrong, like my chest hadn't been caving in for weeks. I stopped, the bag of groceries suddenly heavy in my hands. "You don't get it, do you?" Aaron frowned, cigarette halfway to his lips. "Get what?" "That night. The whiskey. The rain. You almost..." My voice cracked, and I hated myself for it. "You can't just look at me like that and then pretend nothing happened." For a long moment, the only sound was the hiss of cars on wet pavement. Aaron dropped his cigarette, crushing it under his boot. Then he stepped closer. "You think I don't want you?" His voice was rough, low. "I've been trying not to scare you off. You're different. You're not just some one-night mistake I'll wake up regretting." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Then why hold back?" His jaw clenched. "Because I don't want to ruin this. You. Us." And then it was me who broke the distance. I dropped my groceries right there on the sidewalk and kissed him like I was finally done running from myself. After that, nothing was the same. Nights blurred into mornings, and Aaron was suddenly everywhere in my kitchen, on my couch, sprawled across my bed with Luna curled possessively against his chest. He laughed louder in my apartment than he ever had in his own. And I found myself sketching again, filling pages with designs inspired by his tattoos, his smile, the way he looked at me like I was the only person in this endless, lonely city. But of course, happiness is never that simple. One night, I went to surprise him at the tattoo studio. The place buzzed with noise and neon, walls covered in inked art that screamed of permanence. Aaron stood over a client, sleeve rolled high, eyes sharp in concentration. And that was when I overheard it. "Man, you're lucky," one of the other artists joked. "Aaron here doesn't do relationships. He's strictly a good time, not a long time." The words sliced through me before Aaron could even respond. I didn't wait for him to notice me. I left, my chest aching with the cruel reminder of why I had sworn not to fall in love again. For 3 days, I ignored his knocks. I ignored Luna scratching at the door, desperate to go upstairs. I ignored my own stupid heart. But Aaron doesn't give up easily. On the fourth night, he slid a sketchbook under my door. My name was scrawled on the cover. I opened it, and my breath caught. Page after page, he had drawn me. Not perfect, not polished, just raw sketches of me laughing, frowning, half asleep on the couch, carrying Luna in my arms. There were notes scribbled in the margins. Don't forget the way he bites his lip when he's nervous. He never sees how soft he is when he's sketching. His cat chose me first, but I'd choose him every time. My vision blurred. My hands shook. And then came the final page. It wasn't a drawing. It was just words. I'm scared too. But you're the only thing in this city that feels like home. Let me in. When I opened the door, he was standing there, tattoos and all, but without the smirk. He looked nervous, vulnerable. I'm not good at this, he said quietly. But I wasn't lying that night. You're not a mistake. You never could be. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to make him work for it. But instead, I just stepped into him, pressed my forehead against his chest, and whispered, "You're an idiot." His arms wrapped around me instantly, strong and steady. "Yeah," he murmured, "but I'm your idiot now." Life didn't magically become perfect after that. We still fought. We still had nights where he stayed out too late at the studio, and I still doubted myself more than I should. But Aaron never let me drift too far. He always came back, always found a way to remind me that I wasn't alone. And Luna, of course, claimed both of us equally now. The last time I caught her curled in his lap, purring like she'd found her entire world, Aaron looked up at me with that same softness I'd once thought I imagined. "Guess she was right all along," he said, scratching behind her ears. "About what?" I asked. "That we belong together." And for once, I didn't argue. I just smiled, leaned down, and kissed him like he was the best mistake I'd ever made. Because maybe my cat had betrayed me in the beginning. But in the end, she led me home. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.